Taylor, we got some huge news. It's day two of free agency. We were busy last night, so we decided not to do the emergency podcast. We decided to wait a day, and we could have just done it last night. But who knows? The Chiefs could have traded for Max Crosby today and then reversed the whole trade because of a bogus
Mhm.
physical. Like we just didn't know. So if we were going to do one podcast for free agency, we decided to wait a day, let everything marinate. Turns out things are blowing up everywhere else in the league, but the Chiefs have three new free agents and a few returning guys, and we're going to talk about them, and it's going to be really fun.
We are. And the Chiefs kind of they tend to like to bring their guys back. So it's fun when new guys come in because most transactions the Chiefs have ever done have always just been like, oh yeah, they're keeping guys that they have had forever. So
Right.
anytime there's like new, fresh faces, it's fun to break down. I'm excited.
Let's start off really quick. Let's just get this Travis Kelce news out of the way. He's
Yeah.
returning to the Chiefs on a 1 year contract. It's $12 million. It can be up to $15 million in incentives. Haven't seen the exact structure of how that's going to play out yet. This was a funny one because there was the teensiest little bit of drama on Sunday night when Diana Rossini was saying that he was exploring offers from other teams, and everybody said that's insane. That doesn't make any sense. Diana, are you high? And it turns out she was. And Travis Kelce was always coming back to the Chiefs. This is one of those things where if there was ever a serious flirtation with another team, we will never hear anything about it. It will be kept completely buttoned up. He will never talk about it, unless he writes a tell-all book when he's 80 or something like that. But apparently, he said Taylor was totally supportive of the decision, helped, push him into playing another season. Obviously, it helps that he was super productive for the Chiefs last year. And I got to tell you, I fell for it a little bit, the bait on Sunday night, and I was starting to get a little bit worried about the situation. But fortunately, the Chiefs cleared that up before the legal tampering period even began. We had reports from the insiders that he was going to be back with the Chiefs, and he's back.
I am proud to say that I never once fell for it, even though
Good.
I
I'm
I'm
happy for you.
susceptible to that type of emotional reaction to things, and in many other cases I'm sure I would have, but in my gut I always knew 2026 was going to be Travis Kelce on the Chiefs. And even more than that, I knew that if Travis Kelce was coming back to football, there was 0% chance he would
Right.
go anywhere else.
Right.
Zero, none. There was never a doubt in my mind. You say that he wouldn't tell anybody even if it was true. It wasn't true. It was a gun to my head. It was not
Right.
true.
Right.
So I did want to just share the quick little quote he gave to the Pat McAfee show about with Taylor helping him decide to come back. He said, we share the same love for what we do. And fortunately, we've had this desire since we were kids in our selective professions. It's amazing to see her keep going to the table, keep finding new things to write about, keep finding new melodies. And on top of that, still seeing her have that love and joy in what she does. Of course, that's motivating. That's motivating for anybody to see, let alone my fiance, knowing that I'm going through something where I'm going to try and figure out exactly what the future holds for me. Something like that definitely motivates me to say, you know what? I'm not done either. God, I just freaking love
Hmm.
that. So,
That's great.
goat motivating goat, and those two just they're gonna keep ruling the world for a little bit. Trav's gonna, I mean, he was good last year. He was not old. I mean, I say old. He wasn't young Travis Kelce, but he was effective and he had 800 something yards for the Chiefs. He's already like, I mean, he was a good tight end in the NFL, and he has another shot. So I'm really excited to see that his last pass caught wasn't from Chris Oladipoon or whoever
Yeah.
whoever he ended up ending last season with. He deserves to go out fighting. I'm not saying the Chiefs don't have to win every Super Bowl, but they certainly can't go 6-11 and miss the playoffs and have Mahomes hurt for the end of the year and that be Trav's, swan song. So I'm fired up for it.
It should be his last pass should be caught from Patrick Mahomes in a Super Bowl, and that's really the only way that I'll allow him to go out.
I
So,
love it.
hopefully that'll be this year. I mean, honestly, like he has alluded to the possibility of him playing more than one season. That would be surprising, I think, at this point. But like the way he's playing right now, it wouldn't be surprising from like an effectiveness standpoint. Like the way that he has played the last couple of seasons, I mean, all of his his on-field metrics, his speed metrics and everything like that were
Mhm.
up last year. And he's continuing to perform at a high level, so that wouldn't be surprising from that standpoint. Let's talk about the new guys because
Yes.
this is really what it's all about. I'm glad that you didn't fall for the Diana Rossini smokescreen, which by the way, like she got that information from somewhere. So I guess maybe that's like Travis Kelsey's agent going rogue and being like, I know
Nah.
Travis would never say this, but like I'm just gonna text Diana really quick
I
and
mean,
maybe
you're telling me that you don't
message
think
him a
Diana
little bit.
Rossini has some bad sources?
Yeah, well,
Like
no,
she just
she
has
definitely
some bad
does.
sources.
She does.
Like
She
that's
does. She definitely does.
clearly her situation.
Yeah, she
So
does. All right, so the Chiefs make the first big splash in free agency, which is so Brett Veach. It's so Chiefs coded, and I love everything about it. You know, just as like so I was stuck in the car on my way to work because there was a horrible wreck between where I live and downtown Denver, and so I subscribed to Taylor Text Alerts, and I was just exiting the highway. You know, like this was like 25 minutes into free agency. I mean,
yeah,
like,
very soon.
it was the first major signing by any team. And you
Yeah.
texted me that we got Kenneth Walker the third, the Super Bowl MVP, running back from the Seattle Seahawks. The Chiefs signed him up for 3 years, $43 million. It is the largest contract ever given to a free agent running back. And this was not unexpected because there was a lot of smoke that the Chiefs were connected to either Kenneth Walker or Travis Etienne. Etienne kind of more during the combine. That was the name that was being linked to the Chiefs over and over. And then just in the last week, when it became clear that Walker wasn't going to be back in Seattle, if they weren't going to franchise tag him, Albert Breer and some others, Ricky, of course,
Yeah.
linked the Chiefs to Kenneth Walker the third, and they end up getting the deal done and getting their guy. And this is it's a really fun signing. It's really fun.
It is really fun. I kind of thought, you know how sometimes when a team has just a glaring positional weakness, then going into free agency, everyone just links the best free agent at that position with the team. And
Yeah.
I kind of thought that's what was going on, where teams were like, or people in the media or whoever was like, well, the Chiefs really need a running back. So like, who's the best running back available in free agency? Like that's probably who they'll get. And I never really unlike Travis Kelsey, I never fell for this. I guess like Travis Kelsey, I never fell for the Ken Walker news either.
Sure.
I was just like, no, like he's not. We don't make that type of move. We don't really do a big splash play on a running back. The Chiefs haven't had a good running back really since rookie Kareem Hunt. Like it's been a long time,
Yeah.
and he is everything that the Chiefs backs were not. He is explosive. I mean, that's the number one thing that stands out about Kenneth Walker is he had more 20+ yard runs in the Super Bowl than the Chiefs had on the season. He had two in the Super
So
Bowl. The Chiefs had
ridiculous.
one in the season. So like clearly his explosiveness is a huge, huge step in the right direction. And just the signal that the Chiefs took their deficiency seriously, which I shouldn't say that they don't do that because they often will do exactly that, where they will struggle in the Super Bowl, their line will get beat up, and then they'll go draft Creed Humphrey and Trey Smith, and they'll figure it out. And then, I just feel like every time things kind of start to go wrong for the team, they overcorrect in the right direction. They look at the position group and they say we're going to overhaul it. And this is a home run, slam dunk. People are a little upset about the money. I don't care about the money. It's not my money. I love the pick, and I think he's going to just elevate the ceiling of the offense to insane new heights.
Yeah, I mean, there's just so much to like. I mean, I was frankly shocked by the number of national media members that seem to not understand this decision. Like, it's so simple to understand, whether you like the move or not. It's very easy to understand the Chiefs' thought process here. Like you mentioned, Brett Veach has had a history of sort of over fixing problems, and I don't want to say that almost gives it a negative connotation. Like
Agreed.
when there's a glaring weakness, he typically goes out and addresses it. This has been a glaring weakness in the team for 3 years, and the Chiefs finally have taken it seriously and gone out and addressed it in a big way. And while it's been an issue for 3 years, it was really an issue last year. I mean, like the last year was as bad as it could possibly get. Uh, the Chiefs last year faced the seventh most light boxes in the NFL. Teams were daring them to run the ball. And Seattle, in contrast, faced the fifth fewest light boxes. That is a running team, all built around, that Shanahan Kubiak scheme. And Kenneth Walker, I mean, you mentioned that he's everything that Chiefs running backs are not. This comes from Sumer Sports Analytics. So over the last 4 seasons before this year, success rate for the Chiefs: Pacheco 48% in 22, 40% in 23, and then Kareem Hunt in 24 had a 44% success rate, and in 25 a 47.8% success rate. Kenneth Walker last year had a 38% success rate with the Seahawks. And
Okay.
again, success rate is it's 5 yards on first down, and then a second down, I think it's what is it? Three. It's
Oh,
it's a percentage of whatever you're trying to get a first down. And
or
on
getting a
third,
first down,
yeah,
right?
exactly.
Isn't
On
that
third and
always a
fourth down,
success?
yeah, on third and fourth down, it's always you need to get a first down
Yeah,
for it to be a successful
yeah,
run.
right.
And this is partly reflective of Kenneth Walker's running style, which is, a lot of that improvisational is sort of like almost like a Demarcus Robinson of running back type. Like
Don't say that.
the guy will freelance a little bit. He'll go backwards a little bit. He will cut things back and run the ball differently than how it's blocked. And
Say
sometimes that
Tyreek Hill though. Don't say Demarcus
yeah, sure. No, I get
Robinson.
it. I get it. But
Don't do
but
that to
listen,
me.
I just said that he had a lower success rate last year than any of the Chiefs running back
Yeah.
over the past 4 years. But he also was playing behind a much worse offensive line and running into a lot more stacked boxes. So that success rate it's partly reflective of his running style. And I'm not going to act like the guy has, like he's not the the cleanest runner from he's always going to follow his blocks and he
Mhm.
has the vision to follow his blocks and do what he's going to do because sometimes the guy makes mistakes and he makes bad choices when he's running the ball, and that's part of the reason his success rate is lower. But clearly the Chiefs believe that that success rate is going to come up, putting him behind one of the highest paid and best offensive lines in football. And they should think that. If you watch a single Chiefs game, the last couple of seasons, it's obvious that the running backs are what's letting the team down. This whole idea of like running backs don't matter, it's the offensive line that matters. You're like we've overcorrected a little bit
Mhm.
because the running back still has to do something. Okay. I get that it's mostly about the blocking and there most any NFL running back that's employed by an NFL team can get more or less what's blocked. But like beyond that, you need to be able to do something else. So another stat, the Chiefs were ninth in yards before contact last year,
Yeah.
but they were 30th in yards after contact. Okay, so
Jesus.
before contact, that's what the offensive line is doing. And the
Yeah.
offensive line is good. It's a top 10 offensive line, ninth in yards before contact. Those guys are mauling people, they're pushing people aside, they're creating holes. Yards after contact, that's on the running back. And they were 30th, which is third to last. So returning to, the success rate versus explosion metrics, in 22, Pacheco had a 5.8% explosive play rate. In 23, it was at 7%. 24, Hunt led the team with 4%. And last year, Hunt led the team with 3%
Mm,
explosive run rates.
that's
Kenneth
rough.
Walker was at 10% last year.
Sure.
So three and a half times more than Kareem Hunt. A full 25% better than the most explosive runner the Chiefs have had over the last 4 years, which was Pacheco in 23. And the offensive line helps with explosive runs too. Yeah,
Yeah.
like if the
Right.
offensive line can get you to the second level and let the running back do the work, and the running back is a good running back like Kenneth Walker and not the butt cheeks running backs the Chiefs have had over the last several seasons, that is a recipe for success. This makes all the sense in the world to me.
I completely agree. Another thing that makes a lot of sense that people have rightly pointed out is under center tendencies
Mm.
and the fact that Kenneth Walker carried the ball last year. This is Sam McDowell from the Star had a great breakdown on this. Walker carried the ball 172 times under center, and Kareem Hunt led the Chiefs in under center rushes with 72. So Walker had 100 more rushes under center. Again, this is when the quarterback starts to play under center. This isn't saying they run it up the
Right,
middle.
right.
This is saying the offensive formation is non-shotgun. And among teams or among the 72 carries on under center formations from Kareem, 20 of them were third and fourth short. Like they were the quick little, the ones that, of course, you're going to be under center for like a 1 yard run, and nine were goal to go. So the point is, the situation dictated most of Kareem Hunt's under center work, and it was still vastly under what Kenneth Walker did because Seattle, by contrast, had a lot of under center design. There was a lot of that style of offense where the Chiefs have famously been, RPO heavy, shotgun heavy, not really wanting to go under center, and bringing Eric Bieniemy back combined with
Uh-huh.
going with Kenneth Walker is a clear signal that, okay, we're not saying that the whole scheme's going to change. We're not saying that Andy's just throwing out his whole playbook, but clearly the Chiefs have recognized that under center rushes are more successful in today's NFL. It's just the way that the defenses play it, the way the boxes work. You just need to be under center to threat with the play action more. Teams aren't scared or fooled by shotgun and RPOs anymore. They got burned by it too much. They
Right.
overcorrected to defend against teams like the Chiefs. And
Well, and
you're
especially against the Chiefs, who
yes,
don't run under center and don't have explosive running backs. Like, why
why
would
would you?
anybody
Yeah,
ever credit the Chiefs play action ever? Like,
no,
there's just no reason to do it.
it's just a
They're
waste of
always
time for the
they're
Chiefs to
always
play
sitting
action.
pass on play action. They're always
Yeah,
sitting pass on the RPO, and
right.
they
And
should do that
they should in the past. Now you sit
now.
on that baby,
Hmm,
and Ken
yeah,
Walker's going to
see what
run
happens.
right up your ass, make you pay for
Yeah, I mean, to add to the Eric Bieniemy thing, like Eric Bieniemy coming from a year under Ben Johnson in Chicago,
it. Yes.
who's probably has the best designed run game in the NFL. I would say currently, like, I mean, the guy's a genius.
Yeah,
I don't
got
know
really
how,
good usage out of Swift and Monongai. Like their
yeah,
running backs looked good in Chicago. That was all
yeah,
Eric. I
and
mean, a lot of Airbnb.
I don't know how much of that Eric Bieniemy is responsible for, and how much of that he's picked up from Ben Johnson and vice versa. But it
Sure.
definitely can't hurt.
Yeah.
And the Chiefs bringing in obviously DeMarco Murray as their running backs coach too. Like it just is it's definitely a huge shift, seemingly culturally and probably schematically from what they've done with the run game in the past. And I think it can't help but be more successful than it was. Now there are things to criticize here. Like one we've already touched on is, he has a little bit of a tendency to freelance and his success rate, like his ability to hit, he's not as good a singles hitter as Kareem Hunt, right? Like if Kareem Hunt's like a guy that's hitting 300, but he's hitting, all singles, there's no extra base
Bunt
hits in there.
singles.
There's no pop in there, like he gets on base, but he doesn't have any juice. And Ken Walker's maybe like the 250 hitter, but like he's going to hit 50 bombs.
He's a DH.
And
Yeah.
yeah, and that is a more valuable player than the singles hitter that's hitting
Well,
300, right?
and
Like,
yes, but also if you think about Walker's like position in Seattle, he played with Geno Smith and with Sam Darnold, who was
uh-huh.
quarterbacks. He
Yep.
had a mediocre offensive line. And I mean, some last year would say, pretty poor, or at least as far as run blocking goes. You kind of would tend to, I would think, just kind of putting myself in that type of mindset, like I need to hit homers
Yeah.
because if I'm going to run for 4 yards on this play, like Sam Darnold's not going to pick it up. I mean, obviously, Sam Darnold had a good year, all that stuff. I'm just meaning that mentality wise, I think Ken Walker became this like, ooh, I've got to do this all myself. I'm like the
Hmm.
best player on my offense. And like, I've got to go, hunt for a big play because if I don't, we're going to punt. And like, I just think that the Chiefs could kind of get that tendency away and just say,
Hmm.
dude, just give us 5 yards. That's all we want right now. And if they do that with him, and if they get him in that mindset, that could really open up some stuff for him in the offense. I hope.
Yeah. I think the Chiefs think that they can do that. We'll see if they actually can do it or not. But like, I definitely think that that is their plan. Is
Yeah.
that, hey, we want to get a little bit more. We want to bring the batting average up without
Yes.
sacrificing the power.
Yep.
And part of that is having better protection around him in the lineup. To continue to use the baseball analogy, which is just having better offensive linemen. Part of that is having Patrick Mahomes if he's healthy, and hopefully they fill out some of the weapons on this roster offensively. Although Travis Kelce's coming back, we'll talk about another guy that is returning. There, they have 2 first-round picks. They have the 40th overall pick too. They have a lot of capital to be able to put weapons around him, but like it's just such a huge force multiplier. Like I really don't
Yeah.
think people like I think people that I was surprised at the number of national media pundits that were kind of like, I don't understand why the Chiefs wouldn't just, you know, throw some money at, some lottery ticket free agents and,
Tyler Algier.
some day three draft picks. And it's like, you don't understand why they wouldn't do that? Because like, and to be fair, the Chiefs have not invested anything in running back in the draft over the last 4 years. They took Pacheco in the seventh round. They took Brashard Smith in the seventh round, and that's it.
Hmm.
And they could have thrown a third round pick at running back at some point in the last 4 years, right? Like,
Yep. Yep.
they didn't, but like this is a move to bring in a star player who gives you, I mean, he's one of the most explosive running backs in the NFL. He had the third highest rate of 10 plus yard rushes, like you mentioned. Like they just want somebody that can hit home runs, extra base hits in lineup at running back. And it'll be interesting to see how they fill out the room. Like if they bring
Right.
Kareem Hunt back, Kareem Hunt would be a great complement to Kenneth Walker.
Agreed. He's
I
not
mean,
an RB1 these days, which is what
right,
they were trying to
right.
use him as last year, but he sure is
Yeah.
a nice short yardage and a change of pace,
You bring in the guy that gets on
bruiser.
base and
Yes.
and he can get
Yes.
on base and Kenneth Walker can hit
And
home runs,
homer him in.
like
Yeah, right.
exactly.
I do also think that just you and I, when we were talking about this, as it happened, the screen game and the passing game with a running back that
Hmm.
can catch the ball and that can make explosive plays happen out of the screen game is massive. When the Chiefs were dropping back to pass last year and the last couple of years, and they would dump the ball off to Isaiah Pacheco or to Kareem Hunt, like that's not going to go anywhere. That's not going to do anything. That's a useless play. And Andy Reid is obviously trying to screen the hell out of these teams, and he had to resort to wide receiver screens, tight end screens, all that type of stuff. He just couldn't get his screen game the way he wanted. And Ken Walker catches the ball. He's a guy that you can, you know, trust in that type of role. I really think that it's going to open everything up for the offense because now, if you don't have the loaded box or the light boxes, you get some guys up. Now you can get these speedsters that need a little bit of room behind the defense. Now they can start ripping behind them. I mean, it's the whole thing is like you said, force multiplier. Like it's just when the offense gets better, it helps all the other aspects of the offense. And I think that's what he does here. I'm so excited about it. I told you before the free agency when you signed up for Taylor Tex, you said let me know when we signed Travis Etienne, and I said
Yeah.
I'm actually holding out for Ken Walker, but
Yeah.
I will let you know either way. I mean, this was my like number one pick, and they did it. I'm so fired up.
Let's stay on the offensive side of the ball here because I've already teased it, and I think it dovetails nicely with the conversation that we've been having. So we wondered if Tyquan Thornton would be back with the Chiefs, if they would be interested in using him a little bit more extensively because he obviously was the Chiefs' best receiver for the first 5 weeks, 6 weeks of the 2025 season. And then when Rashee Rice came back in week 7, he sort of kind of disappeared from the playbook, I think to the Chiefs' detriment. He does return to the Chiefs on really I think a cheaper deal than a lot of people were expecting. There have been a lot of these 1 year, $10 million type deals
Mm-hmm.
for your speedster, prove it deal kind of possible breakout kind of guy. And he gets a 2 year, $11 million deal that could go up to $14 million. It's not I think it's a little bit friendlier than what I was expecting him to sign for, but it's also not nothing. Like it's clearly
Yes.
is an investment by the Chiefs in him that to me signals that he's going to be a bigger part of the game plan and he should be. I mean, like just thinking about the adding the home run threat out of the backfield and Kenneth Walker, who has a ton of juice and a ton of long speed, if he gets to the second level and the ability to, break tackles and make guys miss at the second level too, along with that long speed.
Mm-hmm.
Lest we forget, the Chiefs still have the fastest player in NFL combine history in Xavier Worthy, and they also now are bringing back their best deep threat from last season, Tyquan Thornton, who was also, a 4-2 speed guy who can absolutely, get behind the defense and unlike Xavier Worthy has shown an ability to track those errant deep balls from Patrick Mahomes and bring them in. So like
Yeah.
the you see the vision with those, like it may not immediately seem obvious that like, oh, these two things are connected, but I do think these two things are connected. Like I think the way that they want to build the offense. Like, the last couple of years, it was all speed, speed, speed. They brought in Xavier Worthy, they brought in Hollywood Brown, they brought in Tyquan Thornton, and that's all great, except that those guys struggle to beat man, and there's no threat from the running game. So,
No.
like, you have the ability to just focus on keeping the top on the defense and manning those guys up and you just don't have any way to force teams to bring those guys down into the box and let your deep speed kind of take over a little bit because they're not going to bring guys into the box to stop Isaiah Pacheco or Kareem Hunt. You
because
know,
they don't need to,
they don't
because they
need to.
can wait back and then they're going to run 3 yards and then they can go tackle them. Yeah,
Yeah. But now
it's
they don't, now they can't do that anymore.
no, and complementary football is so important. And when you go too far in one direction with your build, your team build, it ends up being easy to stop because they only have to you're only throwing one look at.
Yes.
And the speed thing was great when it was the Legion of Zoom. And not only did you have speed, but you had high point catcher like Tyreek Hill, and you had, like it was a fun idea, but it was more than just speed, than straight line speed that the Chiefs had when they had those fast receivers. And then they kind of, I don't know, I wasn't in the room trying to figure out how they were going to build their team, but it did seem like they picked one thing out, and it was almost like the old Al Davis Raiders, where they would say that they would draft the highest 40-yard players, time players, no matter what the other attributes were, that they just wanted to kill you with speed. But it's like you need more than one skill, you need more than one thing to threaten people with. And yes, Taekwon on his own, he's a good receiver. He's a good catch point guy. Knows where he is on the field and has a good chemistry with Mahomes. He was always going to be a good candidate to come back, even if nothing else really changed on the offense. But the fact that there are also changes on the offense really shows that they believe, like you said with the deal, that he's a part of that. That he's not just a token. We're going to bring out in our sixth wide receiver and pay him the vet minimum, and that's going to be that. Like, no, they traded for, or no, they didn't trade for him. They picked him up after New England cut him, but they believe in him, and he's very fired up. He tweeted, Chiefs Kingdom stuff, and just seems like he's a really good culture fit. Pat was fired up. I just really liked that from the perspective of the kid earned it. He earned another contract after with his play, and I would have loved to have seen more out of Taekwon last year as far as the focus of the offense goes. But they had to try and work back in their injured receivers and Rasheed and all that stuff, and it was just kind of a mess in the wide receiver room last year. But I think a clean year and going into this is going to be really good for him. I'm super excited to see what he brings to the team.
Before we turn it over to the defensive side of the ball, I will note that this evening, while we were getting ready to record, Niho Remigio is returning to the Chiefs. I retweeted this from Arrowhead Corner or some such thing, and I got about 5 or 6 different notifications, replies that were like, "Why are we doing this?" So tough look for
Huh.
Niho Remigio. I think it's people don't respect him necessarily as a return guy. And he's never really contributed too much to the Chiefs as a receiver. But you know what? It's reliable depth, and it's a guy that knows the system, and it's a wide receiver room that, I mean, it's still in flux. Like bringing Tyquan Thornton back is great. Obviously, having Travis Kelce back, as a one of your two primary options, probably even in his
Sure.
advanced stage,
Agreed.
is great. We don't know what's going to happen with Rashee Rice. I think it's pretty safe to say that assuming that he avoids discipline from the league for obviously these allegations from his ex that he was abusive towards her, even if he avoids discipline from the NFL, he's not going to be back with the Chiefs next year. Like they're not going to give him a second contract. He's
No, no,
he's too much
that'd
of a
be crazy.
knucklehead. I just don't see that happening at all. I actually did have somebody on Twitter today tell me, because I had just was riffing and trolling and said, like AJ Brown wants to come to the Chiefs. We're one of like 4 teams that he said he wants to be traded to.
Yep.
What if we traded Rashee Rice to the Eagles, for AJ Brown? What if we could make something happen
Uh-huh.
around that? We don't have to give up a first round pick. Maybe you throw him a second or third round pick and Rashee Rice or whatever. They get rid of a malcontent and a bunch of salary, and we get rid of a malcontent. And I did run into the one person on the internet that's like, why would we give up on Rashee Rice? And I was like,
What?
we, wow.
Rasheed Rice gave up on us, bro.
Yeah, right, exactly.
Like, yeah,
Anyway,
that's
there is
crazy.
at least one person out there that still thinks Rashee Rice is going to be signing a second contract with the Chiefs and is the long-term future wide receiver. But other than that guy, nobody thinks that. And so, you still have some work to do with this wide receiver room, bringing back Tyquan Thornton, Niho Remigio, Travis Kelce, but
You
adding
didn't
Ken Walker.
mention our guy, Jalen Royals, who,
I mean, of course,
I mean, I would have loved to have seen more than 2 seconds of Jalen Royals last year. I
hmm
have no idea what the Chiefs have in Jalen Royals, and
Neither does
unfortunately,
Patrick Mahomes because he didn't
neither
play
do
with
the
them at all.
Chiefs. Like it, they didn't take the opportunity that where they were clearly eliminated to see more out of him, and
hmm
that's unfortunate. We thought they handled that poorly, obviously at the time, and still do. But yes, the wide receiver room is certainly not a strength right now. Worthy has taken a step back as far as just the potential there, the ceiling.
hmm
I mean,
Yep.
he had the ceiling for a little bit, and it just feels like he lost it. Now maybe he can get it back, but it's not it's not a situation where I don't think they're comfortable with the current wide receiver room going into
No,
next year. Like I
definitely not.
think they want to add whether that's a top 40 pick, one of their three, or another free agent or some type of trade. I mean, there's a lot of ideas out there floating around. Brian Thomas and Marvin Harrison and some of these guys that other teams are kind of ready to give up on. And like you said, AJ Brown, I'm not sure any of them are going to actually happen with the Chiefs, but I don't think that anyone should be surprised if the Chiefs are planning another significant addition to that room.
No, definitely not. Let's turn it over to the defensive side of the ball, and we'll start with the second guy the Chiefs signed. First name that they added on the defensive side of the ball. They signed Ken Walker in the morning. Hours later, they come back and get former Patriot Khyiris Tonga, defensive tackle. He agreed to a 3-year, $21 million deal, including $14 million guaranteed. So nice little round numbers there. 7 million per, 14 million guaranteed. So 2 years of that guaranteed. This is a guy that I didn't know a whole lot about, notwithstanding the fact that he played like Kenneth Walker played in the Super Bowl. And Patriots fans were pretty upset to see him go. But this is apparently a pretty good player. Like the Chiefs have not really had a plan for defensive tackle other than like bring back the ghost of Derek Nottie year after year,
Right.
which they've been doing for like 3 or 4 years in a
And the
row.
ghost of Mike Pennell, a lot of
And the
ghosts.
ghost of Mike Pennell, yeah, just these shells of
Yeah.
players, like these hollowed out husks with these dimly lit souls inside that really are not contributing very much at all on the football field. And they went out and spent a reasonable amount of money on a pretty good starter at that position, which seems like a win.
Completely agreed. Tonga's a guy that is a run stuffer, and it's just really nice to have a body on the defensive line that's not Chris Jones that you believe in, because it's been a while that defensive line has been pretty rough in general, and I hope that they might see him as a sort of like not heir apparent to Chris Jones. Chris Jones is a Hall of Famer, but like someone that if you took Chris Jones out of that defensive lineup, like that's the worst defensive line in football easily. But with Chris
Yeah.
Jones in there, they were competitive. They're all right. It's because he's really good. But like he needed some help. Batman needed a Robin, and I hope that Kairos Tonga provides that boost, that spark. I will say on this show, we've had a history of laughing about name pronunciations, aka Niho Remigio and others. And I just want to point out that it is Kairos. It's like
Iris.
Iris with a K,
Okay.
and it's a weird spelling.
Yeah, it
So
is.
it's hard to read that first name Kiyirs or whatever it is and come up with Kairos.
IRIS. Yeah.
Iris, yes,
See,
yes.
it's the IS that
It looks like curious or something,
yeah, curious.
but it's Kairos, and but like you said, I think anytime you sign a player and the outgoing team's fans are like, no, we really liked him, which is what I saw a lot of online from New England discourse. That always makes me feel really good because if it was like the Chiefs or if it was like Detroit signing Isaiah Pacheco comments, which was the exact opposite. If I were a Detroit fan and I saw what the reaction was when we signed Isaiah Pacheco, I'd be like, oh, can we Max Crosby that and like just undo the whole situation because it seems
Yeah.
like they hated him there. No, and bless up for Pop. I will. He was a cool guy, but anyways, that's my way of saying that I do think if New England fans are upset about Kairos Tonga leaving, then I'm happy.
Yeah, he was the 38th highest graded defensive interior player by PFF out of
It's pretty good.
134. So, a comfortably, like a solidly above average player.
I
And
always think of there's 32 teams. If you're ranked 38th, you're basically the best player. I mean, like there's 32 best guys, and then you're right in that next group. So it's pretty good.
right, right. And every team's going to have a couple of D tackles. So like you're
Yeah,
comfortably right there in the second team kind of area.
exactly.
So yeah, it's that's a very solid signing by the Chiefs. And then they go out late last night. They added Norton back and then signed another defensive player. We'll talk about some of the subtractions, but it was getting late in the day on the first day of free agency. The Rams had signed Jalen Watson after trading for Trent McDuffie. So two of our starting cornerbacks. And then Brian Cook, who was just fantastic at safety last year, signs with his hometown Cincinnati Bengals, which is disappointing, but totally understandable. He's a former Bearcat, grew up in Cincinnati. They gave him pretty good money to sign there. So the Chiefs had Joshua Williams signed with the Titans. So the Chiefs had lost four defensive backs in the last week. And, we're down to not scraps.
Mm.
We think Noel Williams can be a guy. Hopefully Christian Fulton can get on the
Plays.
field. Yeah, hopefully he can
Yeah.
get on the field. You know, um, Chris Roland Wallace has shown some flashes. They've got some. Chamari Connor's shown some flashes, playing in certain spots. But the Chiefs needed defensive back, and they go out and sign a defensive back. This is sort of like the Kairos Tonga of safeties. Is sort of almost like how I
Hmm.
view this, right? Like just like a very solid player. And I'm of course talking about Alohi Gilman, safety, former Raven, former Charger, 3 years, 24.75 million. That includes 15 million guaranteed. So kind of just a stabilizing force, not somebody that is going to, necessarily wow you with his play, but a guy that has a lot of versatility in the safety room. He's a veteran presence. He's played in a couple of different defenses, played for those Harbaughs. And just if you needed a guy, and the Chiefs desperately needed a guy, this is a guy who's pretty good.
Yeah. Also known to his parents as Asai Alohi Lani Okala. He is from Hawaii.
Sure.
And
You don't say.
you're right, exactly. And a pretty solid pickup, exactly right. One of those guys that is not sometimes when you know guys in the NFL, you know them for being good, and sometimes you know them for being bad. And he is neither, really. I mean,
Yeah.
obviously we know who Alohi Gilman was, but like he's not really one of those guys that you think of much, which it's kind of like I mean, like several positions like offensive line or whatever, where if you're not calling his name a lot, that's actually okay. That actually
Yeah.
means that he's doing
Safety is
his
one of those
job. It's a
positions.
quiet job. And yes, I do like the fact that he's played for both Harbaughs, both good defensive minds and both solid teams that have been competitive, that have had high bars for expectation, and the fact that he was a contributing member of a Ravens defense that's been very good over the last couple of years is good. It's good news. He had that really cool play on a interception of Joe Burrow where um, now I forget who picked it off that wasn't very fast, but he handed it off to Alohi Gilman and he raced down the sideline, very reminiscent of the Brian Cook handoff play in Munich against
Yeah.
the Dolphins. But yeah, he's got some speed, he's got some coverage ability. And the Chiefs, like you said, they needed to get a warm body in that room. They needed to go add some guys, and that's one that I'm excited to see another guy play defense for the Chiefs, especially because of their coaching success with DBs, as we've talked about a million times. I just think that you can bring a lot of guys into this defense with Spags and with Merritt, and with all those guys, and you'll get the best version of them. Now, I don't know if the best version is always going to be good enough, but like I don't see team or guys coming into this situation and getting worse. And we'll see how much Eloy Gilman plans to contribute, but they paid him like they plan on him contributing. So let's do it.
It is good because he, like you mentioned, he's a veteran guy that's played in a couple of different defenses. And one thing that the Chiefs obviously miss through the first week of free agency is they just lost a ton of defensive snaps and a ton of experience
Mhm.
playing in that system. And so, to have a guy that can come in and, you know, presumably quickly learn the system and be able to be fluent in what Spags is trying to do, communicate that to the other defensive backs, and play multiple positions potentially at the back end of the defense. That's really important. This is the kind of player that you need to go out and get if you just need kind of a stabilizing force back there. And that's kind of how I view him. KCSN guys had him as a high fit player for the Chiefs, which is obviously great. And I think the last aspect of this that just makes a ton of sense is you've got all this draft capital. You still have holes on the roster, but your goal in free agency should always be, I mean, your number one goal is, you want to improve the team, obviously, in any way that you can. But one of the primary goals of free agency is to get your roster to a point where when you go into the draft, there's no position where you have to make a pick, where there's just a total glaring gigantic hole that absolutely must be filled, and you
Mhm.
pigeonhole yourself into a position where you're having to draft a player not because he's the best player available, but because he's the best defensive end available, or he's the best safety available, or he's the best cornerback available.
Yeah,
And the Chiefs are getting close to that point. They probably need to sign a pass rusher, because that's definitely the biggest position of need on this roster as things sit right now. It probably wouldn't hurt them to sign another defensive back, but this signing goes a long way from, the Chiefs have to take a DB, with their first three picks to,
just
the
their first two.
Chiefs,
Okay.
yeah, the Chiefs probably don't have to take, they probably don't have to take a DB until day, the third or fourth round if they don't want to. And part of that is just because we know what their success has been in drafting and developing defensive backs under Steve Spagnuolo and Dave Merritt, who are both still around. But you've now got enough bodies and enough experience in the defensive back room to give yourself that flexibility going into the draft, which I do think it's important. I mean, this 2022 draft class, those guys are all gone now except for Karlaftis. Um, but the legacy of that draft, two Super Bowls, three Super Bowl appearances.
Yeah.
They've signed $250 million or something in free agency and new contracts with other teams, but that's the kind of draft you want to have. And you've put yourself in a position now to be able to go out and just take the best player available pretty much across the board and put yourself in a position to have another 2022 draft class and win a couple more Super Bowls.
Wouldn't be bad. Yeah, it's like, if the boat's sinking or leaking or whatever, they've patched the running backs, the defensive tackle, and the cornerback or safety. Like they've patched the massive gaping hole in the roster in those spots. It's not complete. It's not to the point where they feel great about every single position, but it does mean exactly like you're saying that instead of being held hostage by your roster holes and going into the draft and saying, man, if four safeties get picked before pick number 9, we're going to have to pick the fifth one there. Like
Right.
instead of just being completely held hostage by your own roster ineptitudes, now they're in much better position to go best players available at many of the draft spots. I mean, you could look at guys like Kenyon Sadiq. You could look at like a lot of different ways that you could go. Of course, that's the tight end that everyone is freaking out about and thinks that could be the tight end Travis Kelce heir apparent. But like you can allow yourself to kind of get creative in some of those draft spots. You can move up, you can move down, you can, you know, if there's a guy that you really like that fell and that you're going, oh my God, I did not expect this guy to be available where we're picking here, then
Right.
instead of being, well, but he's not the right position, we really had to take a defensive tackle here. Now you can get creative. And that's something that I think Veach excels at. I hope going into the draft that they're focused on the best players available at each position and not thinking about, that they have to make a specific move. And that's great news.
Let's talk about some of the departures here. Now that we've talked about all of the additions, we've talked about it a little bit already, but Brian Cook, safety, obviously joins the hometown Cincinnati Bengals. Um, Trent McDuffie and Jalen Watson both to the Rams. McDuffie in a trade, and then Jalen Watson signing on the first day of free agency
And good
with the
for Jalen
Rams.
Watson,
So
by the way. Great
yeah,
deal for
I
him and
mean, and
seventh round pick.
exactly, seventh round pick, life changing, generational wealth for him, an incredible job for him and his family. And I mean, like you to get that kind of contract as a seventh round pick, you really have to earn it. Like,
Yep.
and he did. So,
Yes.
congratulations to him. Isaiah Pacheco to the Lions, as we mentioned, a 1 year, $1.8 million deal. That contract, I think, speaks volumes about the kind of player that Isaiah Pacheco is currently viewed as by the league. Wish him the best, but I
Yeah.
certainly understand the Chiefs moving on there. Joshua Williams, same kind of deal. I don't have the numbers in front of me, but I think it was like 2 years, $4 million or something like that. A very small contract to go to the rebuilding Titans, who have
I
thrown
think
a
he
lot
got
of
$10 million, Joshua
10
Williams.
million, $10
I
million
think it was
dollars.
2 years, $10 million.
We gotta look this up. That's still 5 million. That's still 5 million per, which is not a tremendous amount of money, but it is. It's more
Yes,
than
210, 2 for 10.
okay. All right, good for him. And I mean, he was another late round pick, so it's not a bad get from him. And for the kind of player that he is, that's probably fairly reasonable money. The big one to me that hurts the most out of this list
Yeah.
is Leo Chenal to the
Yeah.
Commanders. A 3 year deal for him on a fairly reasonable amount of money. And Leo's always been, a player that it's 3 years, 24.75 million, so about 8 million per year. He's a guy that was always a little bit of an odd duck, like not necessarily an every down linebacker, but a guy that excelled in pretty much every niche role that they dreamed up for him and
Mhm.
just was a great utility guy, Swiss Army knife kind of player in the linebacker room. And I don't know. I could see that kind of money being too rich for the Chiefs for that kind of player who doesn't necessarily have an every down role. But boy, he had a great run with the Chiefs. That's going to be that one stings a little bit. I really like the player. The money's not outrageous. I get why they didn't do it, but that to me, of all the ones that we just listed off, that's the toughest one for me to stomach.
I agree for sure. Freak athlete, obviously, Raz off the charts. I believe either a 10-0 or
Yeah, I think he was
I
10.
think
Yeah.
he was a 10. And great attitude, was very fun to root for. Uh, Blocked kicks, did just like he was a beast. And they didn't ever really play him a ton. And we'll see if Washington wants to give him more than 500 snaps a year or whatever his career high ended up being with us. But um certainly felt like, especially given the Chiefs locker room, I mean the linebacker room, especially
Yeah.
given the fact that it's Leo Chenal and
They
I mean,
already paid.
sorry, Nick
Yeah, they
Bolton
I
is what I
mean
was trying to say.
they
Is
already
it
paid two guys. They paid Nick Bolton and they paid Drew Tranquil. So
right? And those guys are not that good. I mean, they're not that athletic. They're
yeah,
not Leo.
right.
Like
They're not
they could
Leo.
do some stuff, but
Yeah.
the Chiefs needed a little bit of juice in the linebacker room. And yes, I agree with you. That one hurt. I guess for the accounting wise, I guess they just couldn't afford him. Or if they could have, I think they would have done it. I think that would have been a guy that they would have worked on trying to bring back in the building. But he goes to Washington. They've got a pretty decent coaching staff over there, and I'm sure he'll be all right. But it's certainly one that when when that happens, it's like, okay, so now who are the best players on defense for the Chiefs? Like it's Chris Jones, number one.
Hmm.
No Trent McDuffie, no Leo Chenal, no anyone
Yeah,
else in the
who's the
secondary.
second best player on the Chiefs
It's
defense?
probably is it I
I honestly,
is it Kairos Tonga?
yeah, I mean, it literally could be Kyrus Tonga.
Noel
I don't
Williams?
know. Yeah, maybe Noah Williams. I mean, his
He's
numbers last year were very good. Maybe it could be Alohi Gilman. You
It
know,
could
like
be, it could be anybody, but that's a
it,
bad. You don't
it,
want to not know who your second best player
it
is.
actually probably is George Karlaftis. I don't know. I mean, I don't know. It's
Yeah,
yeah,
not great.
it's
I
not.
would rather you not say it's George Karlaftis
I know.
than, I would rather not know it than know that it's him.
Yeah, yeah.
But that's a depth problem. That's a top end talent problem. That's both. Like the Chiefs are not only not deep, but they're also not star studded. Like they
I know.
don't have they
It's
they've got a box of scraps on defense. They've got Chris
yeah.
Jones and a box of scraps, and maybe they're going for the 2018 model, and they're just saying whatever. We won't need defense. We're going to figure out the offense. We're going to beat people over to the head with 50 points a game and figure out the defense. But I don't really see a great positive outlook for the defense right now.
If you are, I'm just looking at ESPN's depth chart, and granted, this is unofficial and
Sure.
whatever, but it lists as the strong side starting linebacker in base Cooper McDonald, which like
No,
I mean,
no.
that's not an ideal situation. It lists as the starter at right defensive end Felix Anadike-Uzama. Like
Oh
it's
man,
just with Ashton Gelati as the second guy. So like
they got some work to do.
they have some work to do still. And fortunately, they have some resources to work with there. It's going to be an interesting offseason, and we hope to spend some more time with you throughout the rest of the offseason. It's always sunny in Cheese Kingdom.